Some heart transplant recipients feel a change so profound they are battling with a complete transformation. Bill Wohl from Phoenix, Arizona had a heart transplant 5 years ago. His change after the operation was dramatic.
I couldn't have been luckier because I got a fantastic donor, someone super healthy, handsome leading man, good looks, and the fun began.
Bill felt he was being driven by a completely new personality. Previously a successful and hard-working businessman, he put his career aside and began a new life. Dr. Jack Copeland was his transplant surgeon.
Within months, the man was transformed into an athlete. We have very little idea that this was going to happen to him, but it did. He started cycling, he started working out, he started swimming.
Just months after his operation, Bill began training excessively. But it wasn't until a full year later, when he met his donor family, that he found out that he had developed remarkable parallels to his donor.
I know on certain things that I had no interest or whatever in before. It had to come from somewhere, and it makes sense to me, and I truly believe that it came from my donor.
Brady, Bill's donor, was a Hollywood stuntman. It was only when Bill met his donor family that his new interests seemed to make sense. He is convinced that he has inherited many personality traits through his donor's heart.
What a great picture of Brady. He was really a handsome man. Unbelievable. Even though part of him is with me all the time, I guess I'm never going to have that luxury of meeting him, and this is why I want to know and learn so much about him. I guess the analogy, I don't know where Brady stops and I start, but we've both wrapped our lives into pushing ourselves into performance.
Today, Chris, Brady's brother, is flying in from San Diego to see Bill. It is always an important meeting for them, and this time they are planning a 5-year commemoration to Brady.
The first time was a year after my brother's accident. A number of us convened in Tombstone for a memorial, and Bill was kind enough to come join us for that. And believe it or not, I brought a stethoscope with me.
And he asked me if I wouldn't mind if he could listen to Brady's heart, because he wanted to connect with his brother. You know, it was a very special moment. I knew how important it was to him, and we just did it.
Well, I just thought it would be neat to hear my brother's heart beating in another man.
Meeting Chris and having the opportunity to find out more about Brady, his donor, just confirms to Bill that his profound personality change came with his heart.
What's up, Don?
How you doing?
How you doing, buddy?
How you feel? Good, how are you?
Good, you look good.
Occasionally work out.
I think it's phenomenal to see that he's been able to not only receive a heart that works for him, but be able to push it and get the most from it and be a successful transplant athlete is really inspiring. And you know, it makes the gift of my brother's heart donation that much more valuable because he's making the most of the opportunity.
Well, I think that Bill's idea that he acquired some of his new personality from the donor is, you know, that's his idea. I respect it. I can't say that he's crazy or definitely wrong, but on the other hand, as a surgeon and a physician, I can't really accept that as a valid interpretation without some kind of proof.
The researchers at the Institute of Heart Math set out to design an experiment to investigate the heart's role in processing emotional information.
What we found was that the heart is by far the most accurate part of our body that reflects how we're feeling. Our heart is literally beating out different messages that is strongly correlated with our emotional state. It's a scientific fact, even though a lot of people don't know this, that the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart.
It's very important to understand the relationship between the brain and the heart, because this ultimately helps us understand how the heart can have memories related to the brain. The brain and the heart are interconnected by multiple sources of information. First of all, there's neural connection from the brain to the heart. There's also humoral connections. Okay, hormones will go from the brain to the heart. The heart, in turn, of course, sends feedback back to the brain through pressure receptors and through literally the blood going back. But then what's often not recognized is that the heart is the largest generator of electromagnetic signals in the body. In fact, the EKG is 10, 100 times even larger than the EEG of the brain. And the electrical signal from the heart travels through the bloodstream to the brain. And of course, the brain's electrical signal travels back to the heart. So consequently, these two are sharing their interactions, even electromagnetically, with each other.
It's like a radio transmitter works. The heart radiates very strong fields, and the heart is the strongest rhythmic source of electromagnetic fields in the body. And with today's equipment, we can measure the magnetic field of the heart 6 feet away from the body. Probably it goes farther, but that's the sensitivity of the equipment we have now.
They began investigating the heart's role in our experience of feeling and emotion.
Some of our more recent research, where we're looking at I call it the electrophysiology of intuition, are indicating that the heart really is connected to some other, I call it field of information.
In the experiment, subjects were shown photographs chosen to cause extreme emotions, both positive and negative. They were selected at 6-second intervals at random. They recorded the physiology of brain and heart activity.
What we found is in that what we call pre-stimulus period, before they saw the photograph, that both the heart and the brain would react differently. That the heart was shifting, was changing, before the brain was.
According to McCraty, the experiment shows that the heart is behaving intuitively. Remarkably, the heart registers an anticipatory response before a disturbing image appears on screen and sends a message directly to the emotional centers of the brain. The brain then prepares the body to take action.
This was even a surprise to us, that the heart was plugged into this type of information even before the brain.
Where all this leads, according to McCraty, is to a suggestion that the brain doesn't have an exclusive role in information processing.
It's quite plausible then that if we transplant a heart from one person to another, that transplanted heart is connected to that field of information from the person that they got that heart from. And it feels like there's somebody else inside them.
McCraty's theories are not accepted by mainstream medicine. But patients like Claire Sylvia are still searching for an explanation for what they feel.
Having had this experience of living with the presence of another has run the gamut of emotions. I've changed so much. The old parts of Claire with the new parts of Tim have become joined and become like a third being.
After my surgery, I always felt like I was taking care of somebody else. I always felt, and I told my donor mother this, I said, I'm living for two.
I carry conversations on with him, and I say things to him almost every day.
I don't ever feel alone. You know, I always feel like I have him with me, and that's kind of good to know.
In order for recipients to understand where these extraordinary new feelings come from, they must retrace the journey of their heart. For questions to be resolved, both recipient and donor family have to meet, and Janice is about to do just that.